Hello everybody and welcome to the first Train Sim World for roadmap live stream. I'm JD, Director of Community here at Dovetail Games. If you've never seen me before, where have you been? And we have, of course, Matt Pedalston, our exec producer for Train Sim World tonight as well. Hello, Matt. Thank you very much
Hi
for
there,
joining me
JD.
tonight.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing tonight? It's been a week or so since we have released Train Sim World 4. How are you feeling? Kind of where are we at with things? How did you think the launch went?
Um, it went okay. There were some areas that didn't go quite as smoothly as we might have liked. Thank you, Steam. And we've obviously got the Xbox crashing problems as well. But on the flip side of that, I'm seeing a heck of a lot of people having a heck of a lot of fun. And new modes like free roam just seem to be going down well. And as for photo mode, well, just some of the best screenshots I've ever seen coming out of the game. So it's been a really, really fun time.
Hold that thought because we have got some great screenshots to share with you over the course of the stream tonight. Yeah, I mean, I probably speak for everyone in the community team when I say it's been a long sort of last 10 days or so, but I think there is definitely some things that we've been really like excited, really positive things that we've seen. And obviously when we have a launch like this, there are things that we're looking for feedback on as well, and we want to try and make sure this game is as good for everybody as it possibly can be, and therefore, as I say, we want to build this with you in mind, and it's not just a hey, we're launching this now and this is what you're going to get. This is going to be a process. This is going to be something where we're going to be iterating and making it better as we go through. So thank you very much for everybody who has been submitting feedback, who's been sharing their screenshots, having a go with things like the editor. It's been really encouraging to see all of that kind of stuff, and we've loved watching you kind of get stuck in with all of it. I think we put in a stat from the roadmap, like something like 800,000 services and gameplay sessions have happened so far in TSW4, which in 10 days is pretty remarkable. I think it's 10 days, maybe 12, I can't remember, but it is yeah, that's a lot of gameplay, a lot of people playing, a lot of content, and thank you very much everybody for giving it a go, letting us know what you think. We are going to be talking roadmap tonight. Now, if you are new to the Train Sim World roadmap, we have a physical article that we release as part of our roadmap, which you can check out on our website now. It's quite long, there's quite a lot of content in there, there's lots of things in there. This is basically meant to be a slightly more interactive, friendlier, more Q&A engagey kind of live stream, which you can ask us questions. We'll try and answer as many as we can do. We'll have a separate section for that at the end, and we'll also be sort of showing you all of the things that we've talked about in the roadmap and offering a little bit more context than perhaps we're able to give in a written format. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the new route that we announced today, which is Maintalbahn, Aschaffenburg, Miltenberg, and you can castigate my German pronunciation as much as you like. Don't worry, it's going nowhere. Those fans of TSW3 who loved my German pronunciation, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. We have an update from Just Trains as well for their Blackpool branches, Preston, Blackpool and Ormskirk route. We're going to be talking a little bit about Formation Designer today, suspension improvements, editor, post-launch patches, and a few other bits and pieces as well, like things like mods, New York Trenton, scoring, 8th, 9th gen, as well as also your questions too. So that's a little quick rundown. By way of introduction, what we normally do as well is we normally show you what the roadmap looks like. There is a graphic of this on our website, but we're going to show you it right now so you can see. We have we've split it into 0 to 3 months, 4 to 6 months, and specs within the next 3 months. This is correct as of today, so if there's anything that changes, obviously we will let you know, but this is currently as it stands. So we have a few other bits and pieces related to core updates. So we've talked about formation design and suspension improvements. We'll talk about those as we go through. Maintalbahn is on there. Our partner releases, so Just Trains is Blackpool branches route. There is a Swiss route from Rivet Games, and a couple of gameplay packs as well coming from Rivet Games, as well as a slew of post-release improvements that we'll talk a little bit about over the course of this stream and future roadmap streams as well. This is not just a once and done. This is very much we'll try and get regular updates out to you over the course of the next few weeks and months. We have 4 to 6 months. You can see on the screen there we've got US route, UK route, and a German route as yet to be announced, and a new UK route from River and a loco pack from a new partner, which is very exciting. We can't wait to see it. A quick little note on the editor section. We've put like V2 and V3 in here, but that's more of a way of indicating that we will be kind of constantly updating the editor with the game as well. So whilst we might not get sort of an editor 2.0, we'll hopefully be sort of getting you content earlier than that or amending the content earlier than that for some of the editor stuff as we go through. 6+ months, an Austrian route, a German route, a US route, a US loco, a German loco, a loco pack from a new partner, and I just have a quick disclaimer here because I managed to mess up last time. Oh, Matt, thank you very much for putting your. Oh, he's got a little surprise for everybody when we get back onto the cameras. But we have a. I boo-booed a little bit last time round, and I stuck in an extra UK route that currently is not in the 6-month window. So that is something that I had to remove for this time round. Apologies, everybody. There's also some release date to be confirmed stuff because we know we get asked about these every single time. So the 420, the Union Workshops route, Alan Thompson Simulations route are all sort of to be confirmed. We don't have a date for them yet, or we've not got them in our roadmap as of yet. When we do, we will put them in as we have all the rest of the stuff. And we also have the Archon timetable update as well, which we talk a little bit about in the roadmap. If you want a bit more information, check out the roadmap from August, part 1, and it will give you a bit more information about what that details. There we go. And Matt with brand new poster, really brilliantly displayed, not wonky at all in his background.
Well, someone commented about your TSW3 one,
yes.
So I thought I'd get my TSW4 one and one up you.
Do you know what? I mean, I've got it here. I'll show it to everybody here. I just haven't had a chance to put it up yet. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, we can see what's on your screen. You're not leaking anything, right?
No, but I mean, I don't think so. There we go. Oh, that would be a brilliant way to leak something, wouldn't it? Oh, that would just be about the icing on the cake, wouldn't it? Anyway,
yeah.
No, you wouldn't be able to see anything on my screen. So don't even try it, everybody. I know you will. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for bearing with me as we go through the admin side of things. Just got a couple more things to mention. A few people were asking about Scotsman and Vectron when they'll be available for individual purchase. That will be the 26th of October. They'll be released. There will be a Centenary pack as well for a Centenary bundle, I guess, for Scotsman going live, which will have ECML and the core game as well. So if you're looking to just get Scotsman and ECML, that'll be the pack for you. So it's 26th of October. And Matt is going to be taking part in a charity live stream this weekend for Special Effect as part of their One Special Day initiative. If you've not checked it out, it's brilliant. It's a celebration of all things kind of accessibility in games. And Matt, I don't know if you've written out a schedule for what you would like to be doing, but I know that there is. I think that snort probably tells you everything you need to know. But from what I understand, you're looking to do a little bit of editor work in there as well as some other bits and pieces like some free roam shenanigans as well.
Yeah, it's if those of you that were at the last one, it'll be a similar sort of style. So what I do, it's 2 streams, Saturday, Sunday, usually from sort of 10ish till about in the morning until about when I'm tired in the night, which is about midnight-ish normally. So 2 long streams. Goal is to raise money for wonderful cause, and during that time we'll be playing lots of Train Sim World. And this time around we've got free roam to play with, we've got the editor to play with. So let's make a couple of scenarios and see how we get on. I'm not promising to have much success with the editor. This is not my thing, but you know what, we could fail together and have some fun. So I think it'd be good fun. Last time was really good, and it's something like my 9th charity stream weekend event. So it's they're always good fun. So do come along, even if only for a little bit.
Yeah, please do, and please be, as much as it's obviously very fun to watch and whatnot. Obviously, we'd love everyone to be as generous as they can be, because as we said, it's a fantastic cause. It's one of the charities that we're really supportive here at Dovetail, and it's definitely. I mean, Matt's certainly putting himself through the ringer. Let's put it like that. So if you. I mean, I know he loves a long stream, but that's ridiculous. Good luck to you, Matt.
Sleep can wait.
Good luck to you, Matt. Yeah, so that will be kicking off from Saturday, and I think that's pretty much all of the. Oh no, we've launched the patch as well earlier on today. I think it's with Epic and Steam players, Xbox and PlayStation. Not 100% sure, but we know we've pushed some buttons, so it might just take a little while to get to you. We'll talk about all the contents of that, but essentially it will be. There was a few problems with Bremen Oldenburg related to red lights. There was some passengers missing from, I think, 3 different routes, and there were a few other sort of assorted improvements to the core routes within Train Sim Mod 4. This is the first of many updates that we'll be doing. A lot of this stuff, we'll say this probably quite a few times over the course of this stream, but the priority with the team has been resolving the Xbox crashing issue, and that has meant that, as I say, there's a lot of stuff that has been diverted towards that. So we will be looking to kind of bring more kind of, I guess, more meaningful improvements and updates to you in the next few weeks, because it's not the longest patch notes list in the world. We were trying to target some of the things that we know that were flagged relatively early in early access. Okay, let's get cracking then, Matt, shall we? Let's talk about our new German route, shall we? Maintalbahn, Aschaffenburg to Miltenberg. Tell us a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about how we came to the decision that we wanted to do this particular route, why we chose the loco that we have, the 642, well, BR642, and kind of a little bit of history and a little bit of context for the actual experience that players can expect.
So, I mean, the driving factor for this was we wanted something was a bit different to what we'd done before, and German DMUs are not something we've really done much. Niedertal brought the 628, so we wanted to do something. The 642 was highly in demand. Many players were asking for the 642 or something similar, a modern German DMU. So we spent a lot of time looking around at options, and we quite like this one. Going out of Aschaffenburg, because I mean, everyone players are familiar. If you played Maintalbahn, then you're already familiar with Aschaffenburg, and going around the first leg of the loop round to get to the docks if you had the BR204, and then this carries on that journey then down. So it's just like, going down to the place that you've not been able to get to before, and along that journey it's kind of it's windy backwater branch line. You're going over narrow bridges. You're going into valleys of stuff. It's quite an interesting little ride actually, and driving it with this DMU is just all the difference. It's quite a different German rail experience.
Cool, we've got the route map that we're going to just quickly flick over to. So obviously it is pretty north to south route, which is quite nice. Normally when we do these route maps we have to have some kind of tilting on it, but actually it's quite nice to have it pretty much facing north and it being pretty much north to south. So we do have, we've got Aschaffenburg at the top, or Aschaffenburg, and then we've got Miltenberg at the bottom of the route. I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stations if my maths is correct from that list. And yeah, there's a kind of a what would you say kind of the timing from A to B is, Matt?
I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure what the journey time is on there. No, I wouldn't want to guesstimate. I'll get it wrong. But no, it's not particularly long route. But there's quite a few stations to stop at, and the diesels aren't the quickest off the mark, so it's going to be a bit different. Someone just asked if it's the same as the Lint. It's not. The Lint is a BR640. This is a 642.
Cool. So we're going to take it back to face cams. So it's full of, and I'm quoting from the roadmap here, it is full of regional charm, and it features the new sleek DBBR 642 DMU, as well as being ably supported by the BR363, which offers local freight across the entire route as well. And we can't wait for you to play it alongside the Main River in this diesel Desiro beauty. It's set in the modern day. Layers in the red 628 from Niedertalbahn as well, which was released last week as well. So if you've got that, it'll add some gameplay to the route as well. And there's lots and lots of opportunity to kind of have a bit of diversity, particularly when you take out some of this stuff and utilize it within things like free roam and scenario planner 2. A couple of important notes: it will be £24.99, $29.99, €29.99, so slightly cheaper price point, perhaps reflective of the fact it's a slightly shorter route in terms of mileage. And we have some screenshots to share with you as well, some nice screenshots that James took last week. These are all work in progress, please bear in mind, but we're going to swap over and we're going to show you some of the route as it currently looks. So Matt, I don't know if you wanted to narrate over any of the images that you're seeing. I think you've got about 10 seconds per image.
I mean, you can see the inside of the coach interior. It's quite different as you look from the exterior. Actually, you can see it's quite a different outlook because you get these big tall windows along the side to narrower ones as you've got the surface rising up there where the engines are underneath.
Weirdly, this is my
Um,
favourite shot, Matt. Actually, the DB carpet on the bottom. You can see the indents in the carpet,
yeah, it
which I really
follows the
really
map.
love.
Yeah, it's been modelled to follow the contour of the train itself. Here's the 628 from Niedertalbahn layering in next to the 642 within the Brecht livery. So this is unique to this area. We've got the Brecht livery license specifically for this route only at the moment, but they're keen to see what people think. So it's it's good to have that operator in there. So but yeah, it's good. It's a fun unit to drive. It's different. It's just again, it's kind of what we were looking for. As I said earlier, is we wanted something which is going to be different to drive. This is the 363 on shunting duties and short freight duties. Another shot there. You can more clearly see the difference between the window heights there. It's always struck me as being an unusual looking unit, particularly when then you got the front nose on there. So I excuse the headlights and the tail lights all being on again. This is all far from finished, and that hasn't been tidied up yet.
Yes, Lucas has asked, is the 642 going to lay it into Vorarlberg as well?
I don't think there's any plan to do that, but I will ask. I'll find out from other Lucas whether or not that's going in, but not that I'm aware of. No.
Thaddeus, the Slav asked, did you guys go to Germany for reference? I believe we did, and actually I've got an image that I can show a little bit later on, which links to another question that the person's asked. So everything is coming up Millhouse for us today so far. Another question was from I can't remember who suggested. I think it might be Liam. Said, "Is this connected to MSB?" It's not in the sense that, I mean, it kind of is, I guess, physically, but it's not in terms of the experience the players going to get.
No, it's not going to be. It's just still two separate routes. Yeah.
Yeah, and asks on Coradia. Lint asks, "Is it? Will there be a pre-order available for it?" I don't believe there will be for this one, but that might change. I'm not 100% sure. So if that does change, we will have plenty of opportunity to share that with you in advance of its release. We're still a little while off yet for it, just to manage expectations. Is W1Y asks, is the route a back and forth route, Matt?
I don't know. I've not seen the actual timetable that's been done for it yet. So obviously, Aschaffenburg is certainly a terminus, and I believe one of the two S-Bahn lines that run along this terminate at Miltenberg. The other S-Bahn service carries on to Württemberg, if I remember rightly.
Okay, cool. Right, okay. And there was one more thing that I wanted to show. I'm just going to take us back to face cams for a little bit, because one of the questions that was asked was, I think it was from Avery Den from the forums, asked, will there be authentic audio? And I wanted to just quickly share this because I did ask Lucas quickly before the live stream just the answer to this question, and he basically said yes, all sourced locally, or all sourced at the source. And he sent me this picture, which I'm just going to share you now, is basically the recording equipment on a 642. So it's I've not got something of him physically recording it. Obviously, it's a photo, but he sent me a couple of pictures just to show that he was there. I think he had to try and sort of blag his way through to be able to record some stuff, but he's got some bits and pieces for us to use, which is great. Okay. Awesome. And yeah, thank you to Lucas, because I think he's on holiday at the moment. He stepped in to just send me a couple of quick pictures, which was great. Back to face
Lucas
cams.
doesn't actually know what a holiday is. He's no better than I am.
No, I think he was meant to be doing an editor live stream this week. We've deferred it to next week just because he said he would be able to do it on holiday, and I think everyone sort of stepped in and said, Lucas, you need to take some holiday. So there we go. Anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to Maintalbahn, Matt?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, yeah, very important thing to note is that we are a little while off yet. There'll be plenty of opportunities for you to see the route and for us to talk a little bit more about it in the coming weeks and months. So don't fret that we've probably only scratched the surface tonight. There'll be plenty of chances for you to find out a little bit more in the near future. So we'll move from Maintalbahn to Blackpool branches, Preston,
Before we
Blackpool.
do that, sorry, JD, someone's just asked what the fluffy thing was. Do you want to bring the photograph up
Oh,
just
let's bring
again?
let's bring the fluffy thing.
So
I thought
the
it was a
fluffy
hood
thing.
when I first saw it.
No, so what you're seeing there, the recording equipment is over on the bottom right. So you can see four, it looks like, if you're familiar with them, Polo suites or refreshers. Those are volume controls because that recorder equipment has got four inputs. And just above them, you can see what's plugged in the top is a microphone. And then on top of that is the fluffy thing. What the fluffy thing does is eliminate things like wind noise and so forth, and gets rid of a lot of the. So when you get much cleaner recordings using something that's fairly standard. If you look at like when movie studios, when they've got the big microphones on poles and things, you'll see they've got some sort of noise cover over the top of them. So this is just one of the noise covers that we use. We've got all sorts of different varieties and options that we've got for different microphones, but that's the one that's on here. But yeah, that's the recorder. It's a little handheld recorder, and you just strap it where you want to strap it, press record, and leave it.
People have said that in the comments it's referred to as a dead cat. I prefer fluffy thing, to be perfectly honest with you.
Fluffy thing, yeah.
Being the owner of two cats, I think I'd rather I call it a fluffy thing. All right, let's go on to Just Trains' route then. So Blackpool branches, Preston, Blackpool. So the Just Trains team, they've been hard at work and they've been releasing some blogs over the course of the last few weeks. If you haven't checked them out yet, they go into quite a lot of detail on everything from scenery to landmarks to services to locos, kind of in the way that we do with our releases, but obviously they've been able to give it their own kind of color and their own sort of spin from their own personal experience. So really worth checking them out. There's some really good screenshots in there, as well as the things that we are going to be showing you today. But they released a new blog today, which is around some of the landmarks on the route. And if you are a local to the area, or you know the area of Blackpool, you know that there are a few sort of iconic things that that are going to be part of your experience on that route. So we've got some of them that were used in their blog today, and we're just going to quickly show them through for you. I'm just going to fill for a little bit because the big one is kind of currently on rotation in my OBS. So I'm just going to wait until I can get into that proper one, and then we go into it. They've got a couple of videos as well. They've got like a time lapse, I think, of Blackpool Station, which is worth a watch as well on their website too. Here we go. There we go. Blackpool Tower. As the first image that we can show you tonight. These are all work in progress, as we mentioned, but I think they've done a really good job with that. The Pleasure Beach, which again you will know if you've been to Blackpool before, just how kind of how they've managed to replicate that is great. They've got the Ribble Viaduct, which looks great from my limited knowledge of the area. It looks good from what I can see. And then they have I can't remember the name of the church, the St Walburge's Church, or St Walburg's Church, which again you can obviously see from the rail track. The Warbrick Water Tower as well. Jason says I've never been to Blackpool before. Yeah, but yeah. We know you, Jason. And then we go back to the Blackpool Tower again. So yeah, that's a very quick update on the Blackpool branches route. They are doing a stellar job, Matt. I don't know if you've got any. If you obviously
every
work closer
time I
with them than I
see.
do.
Yeah, the beta team obviously talk back and forth with the entire J team on a regular basis, JT team, sorry, and the JT team. We've got screenshots, things on our Discord, and the team there is obviously really enjoying what they're doing, and they share lots of screenshots. It just blow me away every time I see more screenshots. It's just an absolute love letter to be our 1980s fans. It really is.
Yeah, we're really excited to see what they come forward with and how you can enjoy it as well. There's a lot of stuff, as I said, on their website if you want to check it out. Hopefully one of in fact, you know what, I can stick it in the chat now actually. There we go, justtrains.net, and they'll have all the details in there for how you can get more information about the route too. But yeah, we're really excited to see that one come to you guys. More information in coming weeks. Let's move on to Formation Designer. Now, for those, again, need a little bit of context in relation to Formation Designer. It is something that we wanted to include within the release of Train Sim World 4, and then we realised sort of relatively quite quickly, I think, that it was something that we're probably going to have to put into a post-launch update. It will allow you to create your own consists that you can then use within free roam and formation design, scenario planner, and it'll allow you to kind of customize all of your different consists, which is really exciting, really great. Matt, do you have an update for us on how things are going with Formation Designer?
We've brought it back into our dev builds now so that we can evaluate it. We've got a review scheduled for tomorrow, as it happens, to go through where it's at. So the majority of the work is in the core work is now complete, and it's kind of just a review now to work out where we've got, play with it, live with it for a bit, and work out what other changes we want to make. Which we already know a couple of things need to be done. So it's coming along. And then we got the task of setting up the entire back catalogue to be compatible with it, which is an entirely unfun experience. We've got to figure out the means for doing that so that everybody can use all of your stock, because I think that that's what you want to do, obviously. We've got a little bit of a ways to go, but it's good to have it back in again, and it'll allow you to. One of the key things is just, I've seen people talking on the forums about wanting to use their custom wagons in different places, because of course you've got no control over what wagons are in your train. You can choose what your livery your train is, but you can't choose what wagon liveries and what coach liveries you're going to have. But of course, with the formation designer, you can make a formation up with specific vehicles and then use that wherever you want to use it. So, within scenario planner and within free roam. It's this formation design is a really important feature, and it links a bunch of stuff together. So we want to make sure we get it right. We'll give you some more updates as and when we've got a bit more progress to share.
It's kind of the ultimate in. We've got. I mean, editor, I guess, is the ultimate. But you've got your livery design, your updated livery design. You've got your updated scenario planner. You've got your hopefully formation designer. You've got your free roam. That kind of group of 5 things really kind of brings the game to I guess a whole new level of like customizability and kind of power to the player to kind of own their own sessions and to kind of have fun in their own way. We want to try and be as unprescriptive as we can be with how you enjoy Train Sim World 4, and obviously that is something that comes with having tools like formation design. I've actually got some screenshots that we shared in the roadmap just to show you kind of how it currently looks in game. The liveries are slightly cursed. The consists are slightly cursed, but I'm sure you'll forgive us for the purposes of demonstration. So you can sort of flip the formations. Obviously that's a very, very useful tool to have. You can have up to 100 vehicles in your consist. We've chosen a lovely 8F with some MK1 wagons and a 20-ton brake van as part of our demo. Is there anything else, Matt, you wanted to talk about in relation to any of these images or screens at all?
It's using it. It's quite intuitive to use. One of the really neat things about it, because we tried to think about what the user experience was going to be, what the UI was going to be for it. And if those of you that have been playing the train sims since the early days will remember the Train Sim Classic introduced a formation designer some time ago, and a long time ago now, and it operated using textures, like copies or images of what the trains were, and you built this stuff up by the images going together. And when we were looking at it, the engineering team actually came and said, well, we've already got a way of rendering 3D formations using the livery designer tech. And wouldn't it just be easier and nicer if you could just see what your train looked like rather than a cartoony representation of the train? And it's just so much nicer. You can fly down around the train, pan around it, and you can, and you can see immediately what the actual train is going to look like, much, much more than if you're looking at a sort of a cartoon representation of it. So it's really pleased with how it's coming out. We just need to get it polished up and ready for you all.
Yeah, exactly. Blue has asked in the chat, why is the limit 100 vehicles for a train?
So we generally stick to a limit of 100 for memory and performance. That 100 is to start with. We may look at revising that limit, but when you get beyond 100, even on some of the higher spec PCs, your performance will fall apart more rapidly, and brake systems stop working quite as well. Simulgraph doesn't scale quite so well beyond that. There is nothing to stop you using this with formation with free roam, for example, spawning two 100-car trains and just coupling them together and making a 200-car train. The other thing you'll find is with a 100-car train, I think this starts scaling a little bit less well in terms of flying around the train and seeing 100 cars. It becomes a little bit less manageable. So if you make more manageable blocks and then you can use them later on, then you might find that easier. So again, it's like all things. We want to hear your feedback. We set it to 100. We're confident it's going to be a good experience, and then we can sort of revise that number going forward if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a limit on freight trains, and we have sort of.
Well, we
100.
stick to about 100 when we make service mode timetables. We stick to 100 so that we know that everyone gets a good experience on Gen 9 PC. Now, I know there are a number of you out there with PCs that could cope with 1,000 car, but you know what? There's not that many of you, so we need to cope with a slightly wider audience. But like I said, we can review this and see whether or not, and if we do make it bigger, do we need to provide more advice as to the impact this will have, or and so forth. There's a bit more to consider, but if we go with 100, then it's not too bad. It's a good experience.
Yes, exactly. Okay, cool. Anything else formation designer related, or are you happy to move on, Matt?
Let's move on.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about suspension improvements, because obviously that is also something that we were promising as a post-release update. This is something that players can currently experience in, I guess, a beta format in the 323 training center.
I'd go with alpha.
Probably alpha, yeah. So Matt, just tell us a little bit about what that suspension improvement will look like versus kind of what players might already see from the 323.
So what you've got on the 323 at the moment in training center specifically was the first pass at suspension. So it's actually not air suspension; it's spring suspension, which is not right because the 323 is an air suspension vehicle. So the first thing we need to do is get air suspension implemented, and that's on the list to get it done as soon as possible. But the other thing is that the tuning parameters that we had at that point, and even now that they're better now than they were back then, meant that the team didn't really have enough control over it, which means at the moment suspension, to get the ride height correct, has other parameters which are wrong. So you find it super bouncy currently, and it's part of that. If they make it less bouncy currently, it then lowers everything down, and it looks silly. Or it did. Again, like I said, that bit at least has already been fixed. So there's tidying up that, getting the air suspension implementation done, and then what we're looking at doing is getting the spring suspension implemented into some of the relevant trains, the diesels and so forth, to get that reviewed from is this feeling right from drivers and so forth, and then we'll start looking at then implementing the air suspension across. So we're starting off with the standard edition routes and trains that come with that, and then we'll see. That'll give us then the experience to understand how big of a job is implementing suspension. It could be relatively straightforward. It could be quite a big job. So all we're going to commit to is getting the standard edition done, and then we'll review and see where things stand. But one of the reasons for leaving it in this state for the 323 in Training Center was because it runs okay on Training Center. I've noticed some people have been taking it on other routes where it's run less well. But on it, what it does is it gives you just a hint as to what this is going to be like and how big of a difference it makes. We can see the cab bouncing around a bit, because when we saw that, everybody that's seen that on the beta team in the dev team has just been like, oh, I didn't really appreciate what this was going to do, but yes, please more. So we thought, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen it in sort of a demo format, but obviously if you go on trains a lot, it is something that you think, oh yeah, wait a minute, oh yeah, that is completely like how it actually is, and it feels weird that it hasn't sort of been a thing up until this point, really. Oh well, I mean, no, it's not quite there yet, but it really does change the experience. It makes it feel a lot more kind of as if you are actually in a train, and it gives you that kind of extra layer of immersion that I didn't realize that we needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been something they've been wanting to add, but adding in suspension physics is additional computation. Now we made savings in some places that meant that actually there was some room to start putting this stuff in as well as an extra level of detail. So, but yeah, it is, so it's kind of like we thought actually it runs well on Training Center. Let's get everyone able to see it, and just so they can get as excited as we are for where this is going to be headed.
Exactly, yeah. A couple of people have said that they've tried. I think Beastie Bill said nearly got launched from the cab at Doncaster in the 323.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit bouncy at the moment. We're working on it, and just to clarify what Matt was saying earlier in terms of standard core routes, we'll be looking at Vorarlberg, East Coast Main Line, and Antelope Line to begin with, and then we'd see sort of how it pans from there. With future content, it's being built with that in mind as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a couple of people that are asking about release dates for things. We don't have, I don't believe we actually have any, apart from the Flying Scotsman and the Vectron sort of individual releases. We don't actually have any dates for things announced as of yet. So if you're getting those, or you're asking those kinds of questions, the response that you're going to get is we don't have dates for them yet. As soon as we announce them, we will be able to kind of talk about them, but nothing has been kind of formally announced in terms of dates yet. Cool. We'll talk about editor next, Matt, because I know that this is something that I think is very close to your heart, and I know you really wanted to make sure we could get into TSW4. How's your kind of feel for how it's gone so far? Because I've seen a lot of really excited, interesting people scrambling and trying to find out how to learn how to do it, how to use it. Lots of troubleshooting and lots of collaborative help from people. I'm starting to see some partnerships come together and people who are sort of helping each other out and saying, I'm good at this thing, well, I'm good at that thing, why don't we try and work together on something? It's really good to see. I wanted to kind of know to begin with how you felt it had gone so far.
Very well. I mean, it was always going to be a vertical learning curve because, basically, whereas at launch there's no advice, and there isn't a lot of advice now. So we're starting to get some tutorials out. We'll start to get some of the masterclass streams going, and the community are actually doing a really good job of figuring stuff out and sharing their knowledge with people as well. So there's a growing pool of tutorials and just general post information going on in the forums, and some other people who are then putting their own efforts at trying to gather that stuff together. So it's I mean, given that what we're saying, we're 12 days out from launch, and the first custom locos are appearing in the game already.
Here's
It's
one
insane.
I prepared earlier, Matt. Here's one I prepared earlier. There we go. This is from I might write down the name here. Why have I not included it in here? Or Oystein, I think. Oystein.
There you go. So that's the Di3. So that's looking amazing. Now I can't speak for how well implemented and how complete it is, but it looks amazing, and that's the first step, and it's running on the rails. So and there's other trains. Have you got another one there?
I haven't, because we've only got videos
You just
of the
did the
rest
one.
of them. Yeah.
Okay, so there's someone making a P42 DC, and they're making really good progress learning SimiGraph by themselves. There's people learning that are figuring out and succeeded in making very simple routes. But hey, actually, once you get the hang of making a simple route, you're 60% of the way to making a complex route. So, there is some really cool stuff being created, some really cool wins that are being achieved, and we're already seeing an uptick in the number of third-party developers that are coming to work with the third-party team as well. So again, nothing to announce or anything on that front, but we're already seeing the third-party team bringing on board new developers, new projects, and so hopefully this is quite some exciting new stuff that you'll hopefully see going forward. So there's a lot of wins in the editor. It is difficult to use. So if you're not someone who has either used Unreal before or you're looking for a lot more advice, then you might be better off just waiting until the advice that you're looking for and just asking people questions. Maybe they can point you in the right direction. But otherwise, you might find it quite frustrating. I've always said the editor will not hold your hand at all, which is why it's such a vertical learning curve. But if you explore it, it's actually an incredibly powerful system. So we're going to start helping with some advice and so forth. So I've been actually learning with Lucas how to get all of the DEM and LiDAR terrain set up to make a route and so forth. So I'm going to be getting that one out as a tutorial. Unfortunately, as always is the case, in putting together the tutorial for LiDAR, I exposed a major bug in the LiDAR importer, so Lucas is busy fixing that for me. So because the route I picked had to be a coastal route. So yes, we've got that coming as well. So there's more stuff coming along. Keep an eye on the forums, and stick with it. It's a fantastic tool. There's some really great fun to be had with it.
Well, I think one of the interesting things, Matt, is that you're learning through this as well. Normally when we come to these kinds of streams and I talk about them, I know you're not an expert at everything, but you've generally had experience of doing it before. But I think what's quite interesting about Editor is that actually you're learning it as you're going through, and you can kind of experience it as a player is when we're going through it.
It's always been, it's one of the things that, because I've had a couple of routes that I've want to make myself just in my spare time, spare, that I've wanted to make, and I've been specifically holding off because I want to make them in the public editor, not in the internal one, so that I could go through the same journey that you're going through, find out what works and what doesn't work, and then use that to drive and direct some of the improvements and help that we need to deliver internally. So I'm starting off writing some tutorials in the forums based on stuff I know reasonably well, which is the gameplay stuff, because I used to do a lot of gameplay as well myself. So I'm going to start with that stuff because it's well known. But then I'm also looking at some of the route building stuff and how that works, and try and explain that in the simplest way that I can explain it in, because someone who I don't know anything about it, so I'm just going to put everything down and then try and make some sense of it and then share that in a tutorial. So hopefully, you and I can learn together, and you can get the idea, and you'll very quickly you'll go way past me and you'll be telling me how it's done, and that's absolutely fine. But I want to get you going, so hopefully we can cross that bridge.
Yeah, and a few people have asked sort of, where can I get the editor? How can I download the editor? So if you go onto the Epic Game Store and you search Train Sim World for editor, you should be able to download it there. You need an Epic account, but you can play it on Steam, you can access it through Steam or Epic with Train Sim World 4. So you should be able to get it there. And a few questions: we're allowed to edit dovetail routes. You not in kind of the I can change this signal or anything like that. You will be able to add things to it, but you won't be able to change anything that's already there.
No, this is because the content is delivered. You're using it in what's in effectively a read-only format. It's not read-only because we've made it read-only. It's read-only because it's been cooked. So you're using the format of the data which is there for the game to use in an optimal fashion. And different files, particularly something like blueprints or timetables, are missing tons of data there because of the cooking process, because they don't need it in the runtime environments. They get rid of it. But that means if you try and open it, it just fails to open it because it's just missing everything it needs. Some files will load just fine in the editor. The routes will load fine, and it looks like you can make changes to the routes, but then it's not saving it properly. You would never be able to package it and so forth. So you can add scenery tiles, custom scenery tiles, which will give you custom layered scenery. Then you can't change what's in the route, delete what's in the route, and so forth. So it's you won't be able to extend the track. I've seen that question a few times in the forums and things, because again, the track database is in the track tiles are in one place, and they're read only as well because they're cooked and they're trimmed out. So by and large, because of the nature of using cooked content, you can't edit the routes essentially.
Yeah, and I think what we are trying to encourage is let's walk before you run. I think if you try and go into something and try and adapt something that's already there, perhaps you're not going to learn some of the basics that you might need to be able to create your own stuff further down the line as well. I think in terms of the longevity and I guess the skills that you need and the knowledge that you need in order to be able to use the tool most effectively, jumping in and wanting to do something like that from the get-go probably isn't the best way to do it. There's lots of things like UE4 tutorials online, which are a really good way to get some of the basics, to understand some of the terminology and some of the processes involved in using a tool like that. But similarly as well, we're kind of recommending at this point that players try and do small things first and do them well and feel like they're sort of an expert at them or getting to a point of kind of competency with them, and then look at kind of expanding your repertoire from there, really, because it's a long process. It's not a quick thing, and actually I think we've seen a few people say, wow, I have a newfound respect for Dovetail creating content now after trying the editor for myself. So that's nice. But it's not an easy tool to learn. It will be a learning process for everybody sort of doing it. But as we've seen so far, some people have taken it like a duck to water, which is great.
And the other thing is, once you've learned these things, you'll find it's actually quite easy. It's kind of like you need to know the magic handshakes of what does what and where to find it. But once you know it, it's kind of obvious, and you'll find it again dead easy. Once you've gone through the process of making a scenario, it'll probably take you 10 times longer for the first one, and you'll make the second one in minutes because you'll be like, oh, I need to make one of these, drop these things, it's all done. And what you'll do is you'll find that because it's not hand-holding the process, you've got more freedom and flexibility once you become more familiar with it. It just means that you've got a little bit of a, you've got to get over that learning hump at the beginning, which is where we're going to try and help you with the tutorials.
Marek says, what if someone made the game better than Dovetail with your editor? Well, to be honest with you, that's a challenge. Like, we'd love you to create amazing routes for and amazing content for the game. To be honest with you, like, making a brilliant stuff is exactly what we want to see from the editor. So
exactly.
By all means, fill your boots, everybody. Great.
Have fun with it. That's why it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm just typing a response to somebody. Harley Robinson asks, any update on the PC editor for Microsoft edition of the game? I think we've talked about this a little bit before. Basically, bracket Microsoft edition with Xbox, pretty much. So in terms of the way that Microsoft allows us to utilize that kind of a tool, it's a bit of a non-starter for the time being. I don't know if I've got that right, but as far as I understand it's very difficult.
The last time we looked at it, it looked like Xbox was treating all of the content on PC the way it would on an Xbox. It was all locked and bolted away and so forth. I don't know if that's changed. So we've got a laundry list of other things which are more important at the moment to get through, things that aren't working, like the Xbox crash. But we will come back and have another look at the Xbox with a bit more time and effort and see if we can't find a way to unlock that and make that work. So not at the moment is the answer to that question, and no progress for the foreseeable at least.
Yeah. Final question on editor, Matt, is that obviously we've talked about version 2 or version 3. I think for the next roadmap we'll probably scrub using V1 and V2 for stuff because it's going to be more of an iterative regular
it's going to be more just to create
cadence.
Patches and so forth. So one of the things we want to get done, it'll be in hopefully the next update, I don't know when that will be at this point, but is the when you create files in the editor and then restart the editor, some of those files don't get found anymore. They're there on your file system, but it's not discovering them to put them on the screen. So it looks like that you lost them. So that's one of the things that's there. It's just not kicking off the discovery process that it normally would do. So there's things like that. So it's partly this is about an iterative process, which is why we're trying to, when you folks that are actually going in, digging in and making progress are actually going to help us a lot, because you can tell us actually this is a bug or this is a restriction that we really need. So that we can sort it. And cooking, yes, FBlock is another thing, is so that you can make up your own package files, and then any changes required to the core game so that you can run those package files. So it's kind of that life cycle. Those are probably the three things that we want to get knocked out first, and then we can start looking at the broader processes and workflows and trying to make those smoother and easier.
Yeah, and I mean, alongside that will be guidance, support, your tutorials that you're making, Matt. We're also going to be doing some video tutorials with, we're calling masterclass sessions with members of the team. Starting from next week, Lucas, I think, will be on with Alex to talk a little bit about creating gameplay, or is it scenery? I can't remember. We'll have more information on Ralph and TV.
Lucas is scenery and track.
scenery and tracks. There might be scenery and track laying then. So we will have an initial live stream next week, and we're going to hope to bring some other members of the team on who you might not have seen before, which is nice. Having some different faces on the stream other than Matt, Lucas, and Alex is always lovely. So hopefully we'll have some new members of the team which we can share with you. Be nice, everybody. Okay. Photo mode. Now this is kind of a little bit self-indulgent, Matt. I'm not ashamed to admit it. But photo mode is one of the things that we've seen a really great response from players on. I know it was kind of one of those things that everyone thought was going to be really good. But I don't think perhaps players quite expected it was going to make that much of an impact on the way that they kind of play the game and the way that they can kind of document and share their kind of experiences within the game. And we've seen some amazing, some of these look like they are real life. I don't know how they do it, and I am delighted to be able to share some of them tonight with you. These are some of the ones that we picked up from the forum thread, but these are by no means the sum of all of the ones that we've seen. These are just some of the ones that I liked when I was going through them. So I'm going to do a slideshow. Matt, you can react how you would like to react, I guess. So
awesome.
I'm just going to, yeah. So this is the F125. I'll come back to whoever that was.
Oh, I love this shot. There's something about this shot though that it almost looks like sometimes the depth of field can give it like a tilt shift effect, and this one almost has a model feel to it. It's really interesting how the depth of field can introduce that tilt shift, whereas this one looks real.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I love this, and with the tall mountain backdrops actually can give a really different backing to your images rather than them being sky. So you can have the mountains in the background and so forth, which is really interesting.
Some of these we didn't actually include in the roadmap, but I grabbed them anyway because I wanted to show them. If your photo has not been shown, it doesn't mean that it's not good. There were so many to choose from. I wanted to grab one from each geography. I wanted to grab one from each train. This is using free roam to the best of its ability, surely. Grabbing pretty much every German train that we have, sticking it in one place.
Love this.
And making almost like an AGM of German trains.
Yeah, I love this. It's really interesting.
This Azuma shot is just, for me, I can't fault it. I'm trying to scroll through my list. There we go. This is Bent's. No, sorry, it's not Bent's. This is Paintbrush Guy, living up to his name. This is the one, my favourite. This looks like a postcard or a photo, doesn't it? This is Richard W.
Very
Woodward.
Nice. Yeah, it's very nice. I think one of my favourite comments during the beta process, which had me laughing for a bit, is oh, look at that! Now that is stunning. I love that shot. Was one of the beta testers who said in what was a faux grumpy tone on the Discord, darn you guys, and this is not word for word, but darn you guys, now every service takes me 4 hours because I spend all this time taking photographs.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments like that in the chat at the moment actually as well. A lot of people are saying it's now taking me much longer to do my runs, which is, I guess, a really nice way for you to be able to kind of capture your favourite moments. And there are lots of amateur photographers in the or professional photographers, who knows, within the kind of the rail enthusiast group of people, and I think this gives a real opportunity to be creative in a slightly different way than perhaps we've enabled players to do in the past. So
photography is an important part of the rail enthusiast hobby, so it's really good to get that, beyond just taking a screenshot, actually being able to compose and set up a photograph in a way that you've just never been able to do it before.
Exactly. So Blues asked, will it be possible to add motion blur to photo mode?
It's difficult, but it's certainly something that we can look at with the team to see what we can do with it. Yeah. I know that the GT Sport, for example, has faux motion blur. You can sort of say how fast you want the wheels to be spinning on your car, and it puts a rotary blur around the wheels and so forth. So it's kind of what makes sense and what would work and what doesn't work and so forth. So it's an interesting topic. There's a number of things that we want to do with photo mode going forward. But hey, tell us as well what you want to see photo mode do. What options do you want? Because I want to do more with it. So, where would you like it to go?
Yeah, I'd love a sepia filter. I think that would be cool. I think there's...
Jeez, no one saw that coming.
I know. just like your Scotsman shots would be phenomenal.
Just
Okay.
a little pro tip: has everyone realised that there's a black and white filter? Yeah, you turn the saturation to 0. Yeah. So if you hadn't realised it, if you turn saturation to 0, you get black and white photos.
There we go. So lots of support for a sepia filter in the chat, Matt. Take note. Take note. I do not speak for development at all when I say that. So, all right, let's move on from photo mode. As wonderful as those screenshots are, and do you know what? I might see if I can grab screenshots for every single roadmap that we do in the future, just because they look great. So they're always nice to see. Always nice to bring some player created content onto roadmap streams, and maybe we'll try and do that a little bit more often because it's nice to show what players are getting up to. Okay, let's talk about post-launch patches. So we have released, well, on some platforms we've released the kind of the first post-release patch. It's quite a small one. It's I think it's for Epic and for Steam players should have it. I think it's currently going through the upload process on Xbox and PlayStation, but hopefully it should be a matter of the next 12 18 hours. I'm not quite sure how quickly it will take to go through the approval process there. But some kind of highlights. There were some challenges with Bremen Oldenburg backing up some traffic on the timetable mode. This should be fixed. Passengers not being visible on Peak Forest, Link Orion Strecker, Luzerne, Circe. That should be fixed. We know that there are similar issues with Harlem. It's not Harlem, sorry. Trenton. However, as I say, there are a few other things that we're looking at in relation to Trenton at the moment, so didn't want to kind of push that out with everything else just quite yet. Xbox should be able to access Creators Club without having to go onto the website, so hopefully that will resolve some of the problems we've seen there. We held that update just incidentally because we were looking at the Xbox crash issue. Once we've submitted this fix, it will take 5 days for us within Microsoft's approval system for us to be able to upload again. So we were trying to hold it for as long as we possibly could do, but we thought sort of holding back 2 updates probably wasn't sensible, and that we're gonna come back to the Xbox crashing issue in a second, but we will make sure we can get that out as soon as we possibly can do when we've got a resolution. Increasing the brake hiss on the Rotem cab cars. We had some feedback on that. Thank you for everybody. There's a couple of other bits and pieces in there. Take a look at the patch notes. They'll have all of the information on there. As we said, it's a relatively small update, but our plan is to kind of have a pretty regular patch schedule, at least from the kind of the weeks after release. I can see we've got some bits and pieces in the schedule already for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that's encouraging to see. Matt's already mentioned a couple of things that should be in those patches. A couple of other areas that we're looking at the moment. Haptic feedback being a little bit too punchy in some areas. There's a lot of people that have said that perhaps it is a little bit too vibratey in occasions. There's a missing collectible on Vorarlberg. Scoring system, we'll come back to scoring in a sec. Importing liveries from TSW3. We've seen some players say that they're missing some layers. We've seen some players say actually that's not the case, so we're going to do a little bit of investigation and see if there's something wrong there. Free roam and just generally kind of working out what does or what doesn't work in it, and Matt's already mentioned a couple of we'll come back to I think there's you mentioned about Clinch Field and a couple of others as well that we are aware of. SD40 from Clinchfield.
Which one?
Let me actually. Free roam rolling stock spawning.
Oh, sorry. Yes, free roam. Yes. So there are a number of trains that don't spawn in a working state, particularly some of the older ones. And it's different in each case how they don't work. I think SD70 ACE, the screens spawn in an off state, even though they should be on. Your fix for that is to toggle them off and on again. And then you've got the things like some of the trains when they spawn are in a kind of they don't respond properly physics wise, like the air brakes and so forth. And in those cases, sometimes the I'm stuck button can cure them and reset the physics. So yeah, there's a number of different treatments on that. However, this is because of over the course of several years, some of the trains have been built in different ways, and the free roam mode is trying to treat them all exactly the same. So what we're doing is we've got a physics guy who is looking at that stuff and coming up with a better solution for all of that. So we have got a solution on the way.
Cool. I was worried you're going to leave me high and dry there for a second, Matt. I was like, we chatted about this before we went live. Don't tell me that I've made a fool of myself on the live stream. But you saved me. You saved me. The other thing that we're looking at is things like the motor sounds and the AWS on the Azuma. Obviously, we put an update out last week around that, but we'll be monitoring feedback from players. The acknowledgement as well of AWS on Scotsman and the Azuma, I think as well is something that I can't remember. We tried. I think the QA team weren't able to reproduce it at the moment, but we just need to double check and see if it is actually fixed or if it's actually something that is happens sometimes. It doesn't happen other times. So we'll just need to take a look at that one.
Yeah. The other thing is the volume of safety systems coming out of the PlayStation's controller speaker was too quiet, even when you turned up to max. So we have a fix for that. I don't know where that one is in the life cycle, but it'll be fairly soon. I know that one's been done and submitted, so that'll be coming out soon as well.
Yeah, we've got a lovely Jira board of all of the different. If anybody who is a project manager or works with Jira, we've got a lovely Jira board of all of the current updates that the team are working through. So my current morning activity is just checking in that and seeing where everything is, which is great to see. Okay, before we get into some player questions, there's a few other kind of topics of discussion that I wanted to just talk about with you, Matt, before we get into that area. So people in the chat, please prepare your questions, but we've probably got probably about 10 minutes or so worth of content for our side of things before we get to some of those questions. Some of them will be taken from players on our forum, but we'd like to take some live as well, so get preparing. Okay, so let's talk about Xbox crashes, Matt, because obviously that kind of we've said a few times is kind of our number one priority really to resolve. We have a workaround for it for players who are experiencing problems with Xboxes crashing on launch or sort of regularly within the game. If you play it in offline mode, for the time being, as a workaround, you should be able to enable stuff. But Matt, I just wanted to kind of get a little bit more context as to why we found this issue, or how we found this issue in the live environment when it wasn't kind of coming up in any tests or any sort of beta environments.
Yeah, it's one of those super annoying things. So we do the testing in the dev kits. It's the way it's normally done, using a process called sideloading. And one of the things that, because we previously had problems with memory and with some crashing issues, we actually asked the QA team now to do all their testing with a fully loaded system. They sideload 80, 90 pieces of DLC. The whole catalog goes on there, and then they put on the test that they want. And so it's quite a time-consuming process getting that stuff on there. And once they've got it on there, and so essentially they've been doing all this testing, and it had been running flawlessly. So of course, when the game goes live, it has these issues. It's immensely frustrating for everybody, including yourselves, obviously. So we have now tracked down why that is, what that difference in behaviour is. This is the second mechanism of difference we've now found between dev kits and retail kits. So this is an interesting learning exercise. Mostly a dev kit mimics the way that they work, but there are procedural differences. And in this instance, we can make the dev kits go bad. Now we found out how to make the dev kits crash regularly doing this, which has been a key instrumental process in getting progress. And that's just been a different way of installing the content, just not standard for how we would normally do it. So we're going to be shifting our processes now to use that method because it more closely represents, as we now know, the way that the retail kits would do it. So we're going to be doing that going forwards where we can. And one of the other challenges that we had was, because there's been an awful lot of certification process going on for all of this content, even though it's 90 pieces of content, I think, or thereabouts, something 87, 90 pieces of content. There's each one of those has to be certed something like 7 or 8 times across the different variations of platforms and so forth. So you're actually building, uploading, and managing, getting on for 1,000 packages. and that causes some major time delays and so forth on all fronts. What that meant was, in this instance, the retail version that the beta testers could use wasn't available until too late for them to realistically find these kinds of problems, unfortunately. So that's why it didn't come up on that. This is not anything on the beta testers. They've been testing with about 30 pieces of content for quite some time now, and having nothing but joyous time with it. And of course, the problem comes up as you get more like the 50, 60, 70 plus pieces of content. So we've been going through a process over. I mean, the engineering team, hats off to them. They've been putting every hour under the sun into this. Literally, I don't know if you saw me wave a minute ago. It was an engineer who's just driven in from home into the office, taking him about 2 hours to get here, to pick up a dev kit to bring home so they can carry on working through the night tonight on it. So, there's a lot of dedication of the team in getting this fixed as quickly as possible. And he's not the only one. There's other people working on this as well. And the good news is, at the moment, while I can't report 100% success yet, we have moved the needle significantly. So I've been supporting the testing environments because I brought my retail Series S in for testing, and prior to us doing any fixes, it was repeating the situation you had with everyone who was suffering with lots of DLC, where it was crashing most times when you first boot the game. If you boot the game a second time or perhaps a third time, it will boot, but that's clearly not the answer. That's rubbish. Whereas, so we've been testing my retail kit is now set to betas, and with the latest beta that we put up there for experimenting, my Series S boots most of the time first time now, which is a massive step forward. So the team are buoyed by some success, but we're not 100% yet. So we're moving the needle in the right direction rapidly now, and we're working with Microsoft to try and understand. There's clearly some more differences going on here between the environments, so we're trying to work out what the problem there is. So we'll give you more of an update, hopefully in terms of a fix, an update. So when we have it, and hopefully that won't be too much longer. But bear with us. Apologies, and we are going to learn as much as we can from this.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been very frustrating, but it's not. I mean, again, I can say this because I've seen the time and the effort that's gone into trying to resolve this. It's not something that's through a lack of trying to resolve it. It's certainly been a bit of a doozy in terms of understanding like why this is happening. Well, first of all, being able to reproduce it, then understand why, and then put in a process to resolve it and then test it. So just a quick caveat on what we were mentioning earlier, because we pushed the update for Xbox Live earlier today, it is likely that at this point, if we do get a resolution for the Xbox crashing issue sort of in the next couple of days, it probably will be on its way to you at the start of next week at this stage. So just managing expectations there. But there is a workaround for the time being if you would like to use it in using offline mode. Okay, let's move on from that to mods.
Sorry, just before we move off of crashing, Ensel42 says for him the Trenton timetable is crashing every time. The new Trenton timetable probably won't work on a Series S. You haven't got enough memory on that machine. You'll need to use a reduced timetable. We tried to make that work on the reduced memory on the Series S and on the Xbox One even, and I'm just not seeing that one working. So it's that's why one of the reasons the reduced timetable was added back into the mix, partly for performance, but also because of the memory requirement of that new timetable is serious. And even if you haven't got the Lear trains in, but especially if you've got the Lear trains in. So yeah, bear that in mind. That's why the reduced timetable is there. I'm afraid the Series S does not have the memory that the bigger Gen 9 consoles do.
I was going to save Trenton for a little bit later, Matt, but seeing as you brought it up, we'll talk about it now.
Okay.
So obviously we pushed an update for Trenton with the new timetable on it, and we know it was a long-awaited update. It was something that we were really pumped to be able to get out to players, and I think we still are, and are really sort of happy with the work that Joe's put in to make sure that the experience is about as good as we can make it within the realms of kind of the game that we have. We have seen obviously feedback from players that it is very memory intensive at the moment, and there are areas that perhaps are causing more problems than others. We are taking a look at those things. We've got a few different leads at the moment on what we are going to investigate. The challenge is at the moment that obviously we the thing that we think is causing the problem, if it does prove to be a problem, is actually something that we can't, if unless we remove everything. It is very difficult to remove just one or two instances of it happening, because if it's happening for all of it, then either we remedy the source, which we're not quite sure of at this point, or we just remove it. So we're going to have to take a look at it. We are aware that a lot of players are able to access it, having a really good time. So I guess one of the questions that CrossTie actually asked was, will we retain the full fat timetable in its current format, or will we reduce it based on feedback?
No, at this point we're going to leave that the way it is, because it works well for a large number of people that it's working well on. Now there are some underlying performance issues with the route that you can even experience to some extent on the reduced timetable. So some of the team have started taking a look at where that might be, and currently we're looking at signaling as being one of the challenges on this route, because it's one of the most complicated signaling systems there is in the game, because most signaling systems have a look ahead of about 4 signals, and this one's looking ahead 9 signals, and that's for every time as anything changes, it's rippling out 9 signals, and across the entirety of the complexity of this route and all the trains, particularly all the trains that are on there now, that turns out to be quite expensive, and is one of the reasons that you get some of the hitching that's going on. So the signaling certainly is one of the areas that we're seeing some problems with and can look at. So, but no, we are not. We're not looking at trimming down the full fat, because you've got the reduced timetable. When I say reduced is the original timetable that we're shipping into SW3, so you've still got that you can use. If that worked well for you, you can carry on using that. And we call it reduced because it's not like the ultimate supreme huge mumbo jumbo timetable that the big one is. So that's why the two are there. You can choose which one you want to use, which fits your system and your memory allocation.
We had internal names for them where we called them full fat, half fat, or full fat, semi-skimmed, and skimmed, I think. And I think we probably, in the terms of Trenton, you've probably got the full fat there and probably a semi-skimmed. So if you are having problems, obviously we're taking feedback on the forums and stuff. We will be taking a look at it. We don't have any ETA at the moment if we do make any changes, but we will let you know if we do.
Yeah, we're listening to the feedback. We're looking into the things, seeing what we can do about it. We haven't got any updates for you at the moment. Crazy Killer, it's less about a core optimization pass. All the things we're finding are content specific rather than core. So it's it's normally if someone says, "Oh, the game hitches," actually the hitches that you see on different routes are all caused by different things. So we've got a new tool which allows us to analyze hitches and tell us kind of roughly what all the hitches are, how many hitches there were, and that's where allowed us to really home in on signal so far on Trenton, so for example.
I haven't planned for this question, Matt, but do you want to give us a little bit of information about what that tool is? Is it part of the auto testing framework that we've talked about a little bit about before?
No, basically different? when we run the route, Unreal has the ability to do something called dump hitches, and what that will do is when you're playing, it will sense any hitch longer than half a second, or you can choose what the threshold is, and then as soon as the game hitches for that amount of time, once the hitch finishes, it will then dump out a load of information about what happened during that hitch, and then so you can drive the route from end to end, which is what we did on Trenton, and then come back and you can say, right, how many hitches were there? And we can with the tool that we've written, we parse that log file, we can graph the where the hitches were, how long the hitches were, and then the tool tries to have a first guess at what each of those hitches are by looking some keywords matching on each of those things. So we can see that in this particular example run, I'm going to somewhat make some numbers up. I think there was something like 700 hitches or something daft. It was quite a lot. And on a dev build, the hitches will be significantly longer because there's a lot of debugging and so forth. But it meant that we could see that something like 90% of those hitches were just signaling. So it meant that we can really home in on the right things to start looking at when we're trying to get the hitches removed. It's some kinds of the hitches like what's called world origin rebasing, which is just really awkward to explain, but it's a fundamental necessity with large, huge world games like this one. They're next to impossible to get rid of, but they also don't account for much either. It was a very small percentage of them with this one. And your display driver is going to be, a big hit the first time you run any route. So, but when we've been doing our testing, we try and do it after we've done several runs on the route to make sure that's definitely not in there, because there's nothing we can do about it. And then we're looking at what itches the game is bringing into that. So we'll, as we get more news on it, we'll let you know. But we're trying to develop the tool sets to help us analyze this stuff and do more analysis of this stuff as we go.
Okay. All right. There was a question about the AI alerter as well being on, I think, since the new update. The pantos are down, but the alerters are on. So we'll just have to take a look at that separately.
Yeah, that will be on the list to look at. And I think you mentioned Mr. Engineer's talking about the Trenton passenger barracks, so we have a fix for that, but that's not in this batch of patches. I think it'll probably be in the next one.
Yeah, it's in the next. Well, it's in the sprint for the next one, so that will probably come a little bit further down the line. Right, let's talk mods, because we were going to do that and then we got sidetracked by Trenton. So we'll talk a little bit about mods because we wanted to just address a couple of little misconceptions about mods, and also sort of let you know a little bit about kind of what we're going to be doing in the future with modders and mods to try and help, obviously, then enhance everybody's experience of playing TSW4. So should we start with the kind of the hows? So we've seen a lot of things, or a lot of mods in Train Sim World 4, not currently kind of able to do what they were doing within TSW3. I've seen a few people mention the move to the add-ons manager system is kind of responsible for this. Just wanted to kind of kick off by saying it's more editor that's the reason for this sort of thing. Matt, you can give a more technical explanation for this than me, but in order to be able to make editor a thing, we've had to make a few changes in the back end, and that's meant that some things have perhaps not been as successful as they would have done beforehand.
Yeah, so moving from the last time we had the editor working was 4.16, which is a long time ago now, and then one of the contributing factors to the editor being put on the back burner was that 4.23 broke quite a lot of stuff. 4.26 broke most of what was left that wasn't broken, so there's a lot of stuff. And one of the key things that was broken was the way materials work, in the way that it brings the materials back out so that you can use. The goal of the editor is you want to be able to load the route, so that you load our routes so that you can make gameplay on them, for example. And with the way that materials have been broken, that just didn't work. You couldn't do it anymore. So you're kind of looking at really the editor not being viable at that point at all. And we've ended up bringing in fixes for these materials, or changes to the implementation from 4.27 and even Unreal 5 to fix this issue. And it's made a fundamental change to how materials are compiled, which means that if your mod has materials in it, they're wrong now. They're the wrong style of material, so they won't work. And that's certainly a cause. If it's just a texture mod, then it's fine. Textures, we have looked at texture mods, and they will load in fine. What we're finding more often than not with some of the mods that aren't working is it's down to how they've been packaged and some of the other files that have been included and so forth. So what we need to do is come back to everybody, modders, with guidance on the do's and don'ts of how to package your mod. Things that you should put in, and things that you shouldn't put into your mods. So we'll come back to that and get you some guidance on some of that stuff. But certainly we've had some. There was a texture mod that allowed you to bring in a mod to the Ebola screen on one of the locos, and we've seen that working. So there's stuff there, but we've got we'll get the mods working, and we'll come back to you with the guidelines on that stuff. So but there has been a few changes to add-on manager to better support mods, a couple of minor changes. But add-ons manager is not actually the issue so much these days. So it's a combination of things, and we need to get back to you with advice. And we've got a number of modders now and mod users on the beta forum, who are giving us regular insight, and a dedicated area where we're talking to them about what mods they're using and what problems they're having and so forth. So it's including London Midland, who does some really well-known mods as well. So lots of really good help and advice that we're getting from them to make sure we can get this stuff working right. So yeah, bear with us. We'll get back to you and we'll get it sorted.
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious question to ask as a follow-up, Matt, is timeframes, I guess, because we've got a lot of sort of people champing at the bit to be able to change or update their mods to try and sort of fit with TSW4. There are lots of things that are going on at the moment and lots of priorities elsewhere, but kind of what needs to happen before we get to that point where we're able to offer that advice and guidance? Is it that we need to get editor in a better space? Is it there's other things that need to happen as well, or is it can we do that tomorrow if we wanted to?
The particular engineer that has been working on the editor stuff actually is instrumental at the moment in fixing the Xbox crash. So we'll need to get that sorted first. But I need to have a conversation with them to find out, what there is left to do, and at what point we can just get the documentation written up and then shared to yourself so that you can put it up on the on a Dovetail Live article. It won't be long, I don't think. It's we just need to clear some of these burning issues like the crash, and then we can take a look and see what's left to get mods working.
Cool. Okay. Cliff, we would love for everybody to have access to the editor. Unfortunately, it's an Epic Games Store thing, and there's not really a way that we can port it over to consoles. Unfortunately, I think the best that we are going to be able to get is the opportunity for PC players to be able to share that content for everybody to use, but we're still a long way off that yet. That's kind of the holy grail for us. I don't think we'll ever see editor coming on to console.
You will never see the editor coming onto console unless suddenly Epic make an editor for the console, which I don't think they'll do. Bearing in mind that the memory
interest, is it?
But bearing in mind that memory requirements wise, 16 gig is really a bare minimum for the editor, and that's what the top end consoles have got before you start taking into account the fact that what a horrendous experience it would be. And if you're going to plug a keyboard and a mouse into a console, it kind of almost at PC level anyway. It needs the Windows or Linux operating systems to work. I've seen some people getting the editor working on Linux environment as well, but no, Epic have no plans to release the editor for consoles, which means it isn't happening. I'm going to be really straight on that one.
Okay, we like black and white. Thanks, Matt. Final thing that I wanted to talk about with you was scoring, because I think whilst we've not seen a huge amount of feedback and responses for it, I think we acknowledge that perhaps it's not functioning quite the way that we want it to be at the moment. Just a note for everybody really is that we'll be taking a look at that over the course of the next there are other things that will obviously take priority over it, but it's something that we're aware of and that we're gonna take a look at.
So there's already been an internal review being conducted on the scoring. I've got the first report of that actually came in today. I just haven't had a chance to open it up and read through it. So yes, it's even while the engineering team aren't looking at it yet, production team have been doing an audit and review of it as well. So we can go back and start assessing where scoring is at and what changes need to happen on that. So it's moving, but don't have any concrete update yet.
Yeah. I mean, concept good. I think it probably needs a little bit more refinement.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Let's get some player questions, shall we? There's a couple that we have taken from the few that we've taken from the thread. A couple that we've sort of done a physical response to, I guess, on the roadmap. We won't go through those now because you can read those at your own leisure. One of them is to do with the kind of the frequency of updates, which we've talked a little bit about over the course of the stream. The other one's around OHLE and being able to update, I guess, the whole OHLE the whole kind of wiring system that you would see and the girders and all that kind of stuff, rather than just the overhead lines. We've kind of given a response in the roadmap to be able to talk a little bit about that. But Matt, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to say, particularly around the OHLE stuff, because it can. I don't know if I butchered your words, but maybe actually you explaining it right now might be better than what I've put it in there.
No, I
as
think what was put in the document sums up what we discussed previously. It's updating the wires is other than finding the right things to set the wires to, is done in one place. Updating the horizontals, the cross wires and so forth has to be done in every single 3D model. So I am getting the team to have a look and find out what's involved with that, because OHLE is now part of the core of the game. So in theory, it's a change once across benefits across all the routes that use those core assets. But there's a lot of them. So it's really trying to understand what's involved with that work, so that we can do it. So not saying no on that. I'm just saying not right now.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go to kind of some questions that we've got from the forum thread. People in the chat, if you'd like to submit your questions now, I'll try and grab some of them whilst Matt is answering some other bits and pieces. But again, caveat that we always have: if you ask when something's coming, we're not going to be able to tell you unless it's already public information. Can I have XYZ stuff in the game? Maybe in the future, but it's not on the roadmap. And anything that's sort of related to, I guess, very specific things. We prefer more broad, general questions that we can talk about with a little bit more context. So if you've got something burning that you'd like to ask us, then please put it in the chat now, and I'll try and grab some stuff. So the first one that I've seen is, how are your cats, JD? I'm not going to answer that one. They are fine though. So
you answered it.
I guess I did actually. To be fair, I've fallen into their dastardly trap. So Vernos, are there any further sound improvements coming for the 801/Azuma? Still very quiet in the cab. In terms of the reverb effect as well, it seems like the reverb effect that players were seeing in, I think it was early access prior to the sound update, isn't happening anymore. Are we reviewing the sound for the 801/Azuma?
So the 801, the volumes were increased, and we had them, and we've had feedback from someone who drives the Azuma that they're pretty much spot on for what he experiences. So at this point, no. The exception to that is the volume of the AWS and so forth on controller audio, which is more of a more broad general thing. But no, subject to other experience telling us otherwise. It is a really quiet cab. It's a sealed cab, and you're nowhere near the motors or anything, so it is going to be quiet. So we tried to dial up the track thumps as you're going over the ground, as you're going over track joints, which is one of the bits of feedback we got. But no, I'll go back and just double check and see whether there's anything more. But no, otherwise than that, no.
Okay. Sam King asked about. I think we've already talked about or mentioned this about the AWS for PS5 acknowledgement. What I would like players to do is have a quick check. We've got an update that is coming out over the course of the next 24 hours or so. We hope it'll be before that, but we're kind of beholden to Sony and Microsoft on console to be able to push it live. Can you check after that for us and let us know if it's still a problem? Because as I say, we've tested it a couple of times internally, and we've not been able to reproduce it on the most current builds, which are coming to you as of the update in the next X amount of hours / next 24 hours possibly. So if it's still a problem after that, please let us know and we'll take another look at it. But at least from the Q18's perspective, they've not been able to reproduce it in the current build. Tay asks, he's given his full name to me as well. Is there a written guide or video on spawning AI trains with portals? We don't have like a formal guide per se. We've got the manual, which I'm not sure it goes into that much detail with regards to with Scenario Planner, but we have had a Scenario Planner live stream a couple of weeks ago. Would advise you go and check that out because it gives a kind of very broad brushstrokes introduction to the tool. I believe it was the free roam preview and Scenario Planner preview.
That was it.
There's a little bit in there about it. It's timestamped, so hopefully you'll be able to find it quite quickly. Right, another question that was submitted earlier. So Sunscreen asks a question. Basically, I'm gonna précis it around what players can do to help support, I guess, the longer term health of the game to make sure, as I say, that we're focusing on the right things that are going to make a difference to players. And Matt, I'll let you answer that one first, and then I'll follow up. But I've kind of préceded the question. I hope it's not kind of lost the zest of the question. But essentially, what can players do to best help out the people that are doing the work to be able to then sort of prioritize the right stuff?
I mean, the key thing is everyone's always been giving us great feedback on the forums. Keep doing that. We are scouring the forums, looking for feedback and social media and so forth. But I think most of the team, when we're looking at it, we're kind of focusing on the forums. But on the community team, we're looking everywhere and trying to grab the feedback together. That stuff. Everywhere you go. We've got, in fact, we have a regular meeting with between development and community, going through what stuff's been found and trying to work out where things are at, what we can do. And it really helps if we can, if you keep that feedback. If you see any changes based on fixes, if we've claimed a fix and you don't think it is fixed, then definitely tell us. And another thing you can help with is if you see people reporting, let's say a PlayStation player says, I'm finding this issue, and you're running on Xbox or you're running on PC, try it yourself. And so that, because knowing that a problem is unique to PlayStation or unique to console or PC versus everybody experiences it, actually is really interesting information, and it saves us having to go and find that out and helps us get to the fix much quicker if we got that kind of information. So it's that kind of stuff is really useful if you're interested. Obviously, if you don't, we do that stuff anyway, so it just means it takes us a little bit longer to get through to it. Those kinds of things really helpful. Just keep the feedback coming. It's been really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to second that. Like, we have a mountain of feedback to go through, which is great because it means you guys care and you guys want us to make this the best that we can do. Don't think we can really ask too much more of you other than to say, just let us know if there are things that you're seeing and giving us as much detail and information as possible, so that then we can either reproduce stuff or we can focus in the right areas first. There will be some things that we're able to resolve or to change better than others, or more easily than others, and more quickly than others, but we'll do our best to try and make sure that we're reviewing the right stuff when. The next question that I've got, keep them coming in the chat, by the way, everybody. Probably got another sort of 15 minutes or so for Q&A. My G92 asks, will you find a way, is there a way to make it possible to transfer liveries from TSW3 to TSW4? I appreciate subscribing and re-downloading every time, particularly with this time, is going to be a challenge. Is there anything that we're able to do, Matt, to make that easier in the short term?
No, it's not something we've got something down to resolve in the short term, I'm afraid.
Okay. Seymour Goals asked, do you have a definitive date on when the TSW3 fixes will be coming out? We didn't mention them in the roadmap this time around purely because there are lots of other things going on, and as we've already talked about with the likes of Trenton, for instance, that might not necessarily be the final form of the that particular piece of content. And bearing in mind it's likely to be the last update that we do for TSW3, we want it to make it as good as we could do. I think probably putting the Trenton content live on TSW3 now probably wouldn't be the most sensible thing for us to do. So we want to try and make sure that before we backport it, they're in a good spot first of all. So we don't have a timeline for it yet, and I know you're probably sick of hearing that response, but it's kind of where we're at with things, and we'll be looking at when we can get it in the schedule for. Embedded Deer, which was my favourite name of everybody who was submitting questions for us. Any updates on the Epic core routes and previous titles not being available in the library for TSW4? So those are the TSW2 core routes, the Rush Hour routes, and the TSW3 core routes. They're all parts of different bundles, and unfortunately we weren't able to they weren't set up in the back end in the way that we would want them to be by Epic, unfortunately. And obviously there have been lots of things going on in sort of various different games companies over the last kind of couple of weeks internally. I won't go into detail, but I'm sure if you do a quick Google, you'll be able to find them out. So they've probably had other priorities for the time being. We have been badgering them quite regularly and asking for an update on things. We don't have anything really back from them as of yet, but we're hoping that, as I say, we can get that stuff to you as soon as we humanly can do. Questions in the chat. Census Dust asks about audio distortion on Xbox. That's something that obviously we've seen crop up a few times. We had the jackhammer issue in TSW3 that we were able to resolve. Sounds like there's a kind of a slightly different audio issue with Xbox right now. We have...
No, and actually, with the help of the forums, the people on the forum have been able to actually understand what what's been talked to about that, because I've not really observed it myself. But now that it's been demonstrated very clearly on the forums, I get what you're saying, and I can't not hear it. It's I totally feeling the pain. So I had the engineering team look into it. We think we found the cause. Unfortunately, fixing it requires increasing the amount of memory that's being used by the audio. And for those of you that are keeping up, that's not really a thing that's in great deal of supply on an Xbox at the moment. So it's something that we're looking into. What we're gonna aim to do is find some optimizations to clean out some memory, and then you fill it up with the better audio. Unfortunately, when we do that, it's going to require a complete re-download of all the content, because it all needs to be recooked using the new audio, using the better audio setup. But we'll give you a bit of heads up when that's likely to happen. But it will fix it. We know clearly what the issue is. So that's a good step forward at least. But what I don't have for you is a clear idea of when that will take place. But we'll keep you up to date.
That was a more positive answer than I was expecting, Matt. So thank you for that. No, I mean it is kind of, I guess, the game developers' constant tug of war, really, isn't it? It's performance versus like being able to cram as much as you can into a piece of content, and obviously with the core thing like the Xbox audio side of things, it is a little bit more challenging, because that does feel like it's something that we should we could and should do to try and improve experiences.
Unfortunately, it's not. It's also not something that you can do. We can, because in this day, the bigger Gen 9 console, Series X and PS5, obviously, if they've got bags of memory. But what we can't do is just do the bigger audio fix for them. It's because it's right down in the core. It's something that all Xboxes would get. So we just need to approach this a little bit carefully and get the right implementation. But no, like I said, knowing what the cause of the problem is a big deal. We're very clear on that.
Awesome. Okay. Zorbsy asks, any update on Oakville passenger timetables?
So Oakville passenger timetable, I have that on my system. I resurrected the work that Adam started many moons ago, and it looks quite fun, as to be said. What I've seen of it, been able to get working, but it isn't working, and it fails in the most odd way that I've never seen anything fail before in my life. So I need engineering support, and they're too busy for me to worry with them about this at the moment. So it's really bizarre. Basically, the train departs its first stop at the Bay platform, heads off, and then just rides into the sunset, just refusing to stop anywhere. And I've no idea why. So I've never seen it before. All the instructions are fine. I don't know. So I'm waiting for a bit of support from engineering. It's lower down on the priority list from other stuff that we've got to do, but we'll get to it. It's not forgotten. I'm keen to get that out, because it looks like it adds a lot of fun to that timetable, actually.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. What's your kind of assessment been on the completely different subject? What's your assessment been on the feedback of the HUD thus far? We've seen quite a lot of it, and obviously it's something that is a little bit of a gear change for some players than what we've previously provided. I know there's a certain group of like feedback. Can we have this but not this? Can we have this but not this? And I think there's kind of an element of being able to customize your own HUD, which is not something we're going to be able to offer really any time soon. But in terms of your general response to, or your general kind of temperature gauge on the response to the HUD, how are you feeling it's going down?
No, I mean, in general, I think I'm seeing a lot of feedback which matches what my suspicions were and what my own feelings were, in terms of people that are finding themselves more immersed and present in the HUD, in the cab when they're using the mini HUD, because they're not relying on all of the numbers clicking down. However, I totally understand the feedback about how like having the full counter is of interest to people. And there's a number of other changes that people would like, having the speedometer visible optionally, having the accelerometer visible, because if you're someone who drives externally, then what you want is none of the HUD on the screen so that you can enjoy the visuals. That's what you're there for. But then you can't see the speed, how fast you're going, which is a bit of a problem. And similarly, if you're shunting, which you would normally do from the external of the train or with your head hanging out the window, again, you can't see what you're doing. And you haven't got the benefit of just, swinging your head around unless you've got track IR or something like that. So there's some really interesting feedback that we're taking very seriously. I'm working with the UI team. I've put forward a proposal for some changes and some settings options so that it can be customizable, so that you can choose how you want the HUD to change and look, so that you can retain the uncompromised view, or you can put some extra bits and pieces to help you get more out of it and make it work the way you want. It's not going to be an all things to all people, but it should be a most things to most people, I think. So once we've got to the point that we've got it going into the game, then we can start showing some in UI of what that's looking like. No, it's been really interesting, some really good discussions. Really appreciate, as I said, all the feedback we've had on that. Really enjoyed the discussions and taking it on board.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to note is that obviously change is different, and people. I think we've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, you know what? I really hate this," on when they first had the chance to play around with it. And I think we've seen a few people say, "You know what? Actually, after playing it a couple of times, I actually prefer this HUD now because I think like it offers a slightly different experience to me, and that suits me better than something else." There's always going to be lots of different opinions for something as subjective as a HUD and what you want to see. So yeah. I guess the customization options are the best way that we could do that kind of thing. And I regret saying at the start that customization probably wasn't something we were going to be able to offer, because it sounds like it is. So Matt,
maybe not to the level I know
again.
Not quite, because I know one of the things that people have asked for is widget-based HUD, so that you can just have full control over it. That's not happening. That's a level of control that's just not happening. That's far too complicated to achieve. But what we want to do is have a standard HUD that you can turn things on and off of to some degree. So, like I said, it's not going to be all things to all people. But I think what I'm looking at should cover off most of what I've seen people looking for. So I'm quite excited to actually being able to show people what that looks like when we've got something to show. So yeah, watch this space on that one.
Okay, cool. The TSW4 repainter asks, for the formation designer, can we also make things like custom EMUs like a 5-car Talent 2?
No. So at least not currently. So one of the problems with multiple units is that they're quite often scripted and set up in a lot of cases the way the real things are. So so you end up with the electrics not working properly. Talent 2s are an absolute pain in the side because it's like every time we make a new Talent 2, it's virtually building a new train from scratch because they are so different, except for the little bit at the end. Everything else is different in terms of where the doors are, where the interiors are, where the seating is, what layout the coaches, they share bogies or they don't share bogies. So actually taking a 3-car Talent 2 and making it a 5-car Talent 2 isn't just taking the middle coach and repeating it a few times. I just think isn't going to work. So it's it's a challenge. First car, it's going to be whole formations for a lot of this stuff because I don't want to delay anything trying to do fancy things like that or challenging things like that. What we will do is once we've got stuff out, we can then start looking at, well, what's actually going to work? And models will very quickly find that you can, if you just there's a tick box that says make this available in Formation Designer, so you can kind of mod this and make stuff available and experiment with it, and we'll be doing the same thing. And if we find combinations that work, then there's no reason why we can't make it available. But we're going to start off with a sensible set of, right, this stuff works, these ones we know work, and then start looking at breaking up EMUs and ICEs and so forth later on to see whether or not they work separately. I don't have high confidence on that, but it may.
Okay. A few people have been asking in the chat. I haven't seen this question asked before actually in one of our streams, but I'll ask it anyway. Class 31 and Class 33 in Livery Designer. Is that something that we're aware of isn't currently possible, and or is there a reason for it not being possible?
A lot of the back catalogue isn't available in every designer, and there's no plans to change that at this point.
Okay, cool. Because I know that obviously we put quite a lot of work into sort of making sure that GWE HST was obviously
Yep.
available. I would assume it's a similar amount of work to make most other.
Livery design. I can't remember exactly what the estimate is for doing a particular item into Livery Designer. It's not a 5-minute job. You don't just tick a box. It needs remapping with the new texture, and then setting up, which is it's a non-trivial process. It's not massive, but it's non-trivial, and that needs to be then done. So no, and at this point we've got no plans to do that.
Yeah, and people who did follow the HST Livery Designer discussion last year, it did take a while for that to be a reality. So I think, as I say, Matt's right in that there are no current plans to introduce anything from the back catalogue into Livery Designer that's not already there. Okay, I have a few questions from Beastie Bill, and this is your 5-minute klaxon, everybody, to get questions in. Again, caveat reminder that very, very specific questions about when something is coming. Can we have this particular route? We probably won't answer tonight. I'd like to keep a couple of more broad questions to finish with. So these are going to be quick fire for you, Matt, because he's asked 5 questions. So speaking of HST, when will the GWE HST have its wipers resolved or fixed?
I don't have a schedule. For a fact, for a lot of these that are asking when, I don't have a time frame, but that one is on the list to get looked at. Yes.
Yep. And I guess same with things like derailment issues for Diesel Legends.
Yeah, so I've got one of the things I'm going to be doing myself is going through some of the add-ons and looking at issues, and that particular one, the derailment on Diesel Legends, is actually on my list to do.
Cool. When will Blood and Custard coaches and conflat containers be added to Spirit of Steam and Peak Forest?
It's not on a task list to look at the minute. Okay. Although I need to go and check the conflat containers because I thought they already were.
Rear gangway doors on the 377. We've seen this mentioned.
That's down to be fixed. Yeah, that's down to be fixed.
Any update on AI, steam physics, and physics and sounds?
Not at this time, no.
No. Okay. Well, those are the quick fire ones. Anything in the chat? Simpman asked something that I did see mentioned a couple of times. Gamepad controls on PS5 not being currently usable in TSW4. Is that something that we're aware of and or fixing?
Wow, sorry, that sounds a bit extreme. Is this actually referring to the clicking the right stick to get the camera where sometimes it doesn't work? Because that I'm aware of, that I need to get someone to look into, but I use the PS5 on a regular basis and they don't. Everything else seems fine. So if you've got a bigger issue, feel free to DM me on the forums.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that one as well, just so we follow that one up.
Yeah, that sounds serious.
That does sound serious, yeah. Okay, some of these questions we have asked or answered already. I'll take one more for tonight. There is quite a lot of very specific questions, and I would like to finish with something a bit more general.
While you're looking, I just want to make a big shout out actually to player who's been playing the game, Ramsey, and having a really, really good time on it. We've been chatting a bit on Facebook, and just want to say thanks for reaching out. I enjoyed the conversation. Hope you're enjoying it.
And I hope that they are listening tonight. Okay.
They said something earlier on, so hopefully they're still around.
Pom's Gaming, there we go. We'll take this last question. Are there any plans to bring back the route codes on the roadmap? Now, I think this was a conscious decision, really, from us. I think what we were seeing when we put codes on the roadmap was that it caused obviously a lot of speculation, which is great. It's great for people to kind of have an idea of what something might be coming up, but it did also mean that there was quite a lot of disappointment perhaps, or things that were not like expectations not managed with things when things were actually come to announce. Because I think, again, you see some numbers on a thing, you kind of put 2 and 2 together and you say, you know what, it could be this thing, it could be this thing, it could be this thing, could be this thing, could be this thing, could be this thing. But these are the only things it could be. And then when it's the one that it's not, that you've not got your heart set on, that makes it quite difficult to then sort of I guess, make people like happy about the route. So I think we made a conscious decision that for the time being, not to say that we might not bring them back in future, but at least for the time being, what we'd like to do is really kind of, the roadmap now goes more into the future than it used to. It gives more information than it used to in terms of the graphic that we present. We hope that gives you kind of an amount of information that you've never really had before, at least haven't had kind of prior to the way that we're doing it now. So we're always willing to take on feedback, but we made that kind of as a conscious decision for the time being, that we're not going to include root codes, just because we think it's unhelpful speculation that doesn't necessarily mean that things end up as that person has got their heart set on. So yeah, again, we're
I
happy
think
to take on feedback.
Koringa 2, I'm definitely saying that wrong, says it was a kind of a nice puzzle though. So the challenge now back on you, JD, is we need to come up with a fun puzzle to keep everyone happy that's not just root code solving.
Yeah, one of my favorite
let's come up with a fun puzzle.
One of my favorite things was when we did the announcement for TSW3, when we had the 24-hour Clue Fest, I guess.
Oh, that was brilliant.
I know that a couple of people in my team have mentioned about wanting to do something around Christmas time that's something similar. So we'll see how we get on. I'm not promising anything, but if we can make it work, you'll have enough puzzles to last a lifetime. Well, not really. It'll probably last you a couple of. Well, I know, knowing you, it will last you about 20 minutes. So
3 minutes, knowing this lot.
Yeah.
I still never forget when we did the preview. We did a single photograph for one route, and it was a photograph of a field with a barn. Yeah. And within about 3 minutes, they knew it was the East Coast Way route and could tell us what latitude and longitude the photograph was taken from.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you cannot rely on this lot to not find things. They will find it.
We found with the Blackpool branch as well, with the Just Trains route, they put out some teas and they're like, the players will never get this. It just looks like a nondescript part of the route in the middle of nowhere in the English countryside. I think within probably about half an hour of that image that first image being posted, everyone was like, it's this spot in this location on this route. Yeah. And now I'm really excited. So
we love that, to be honest. It's so, because we're like, this will never get found, and you do, and it's just like, okay, wow.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that we can do. I think route codes probably aren't the best way of being able to kind of do that sort of thing. We'll have a look and see what else we can do to make it a little bit more fun and interactive and puzzle-like for you all. Okay, all right. I think that'll do for tonight. Matt, is there anything else you wanted to talk about or address before we finish up with some more admin?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything we're going to cover. So, no.
Admin time. Okay, all right. Just a quick reminder of what the roadmap looks like just before we finish. So just skip over to that for a second. So that is your roadmap for TSW4. Caveat, everything is subject to change. This is accurate as of today. But as I say, we will bring you the next roadmap at the start of November. As you can see, we've announced the new German route, Maintalbahn, Aschaffenburg to Miltenberg. We have Blackpool branches route as well as a couple of other bits and pieces from Rivet Games coming up in the next 3 months. We talked a little bit about formation designer and suspension improvements today, so if you've missed that bit, then you can always scroll backwards. We'll timestamp this tomorrow so you can take a look at it. And then further into the distance, we provide perhaps less information for you for all of the stuff, but again, there's quite a variety of different types of content in there, including a new Austrian route as well, and other bits and pieces to be confirmed are on the bottom of that roadmap too. Quick final shout out before we go to Matt, who's going to be doing a special effect live stream this weekend. Going to be doing a bit of editor, a bit of free roam, bit of everything. I mean, he's going to be streaming for probably about 20 hours, so he'll find stuff to do, I'm sure, over the course of that 20 hours with Train Sim World 4. Please be generous if you tune in. I'll be sort of popping in and out, I believe, over the window if I can do. That'll be for their one special day initiative. We are hoping to have a couple of other surprises as well over the course of the stream, but we'll keep those under our hats for the time being. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you very much for being as kind of forthcoming with your feedback as you have been over the course of the last 10 days as well. It really means a lot to us that everybody is quite as passionate about this stuff as we are, and that you're providing as much detail and information as you possibly can do as well. We all obviously all want to make this the best possible version of Train Sim World 4 that we possibly can do, and we can do that more easily with your help and your suggestions. So thanks from me, thanks from the community team, and thanks very much from everyone at Dovetail for that kind of continued feedback. So yeah, that just leaves me to say thank you very much, everyone. Good night. Thank you very much, Matt, for joining us.
Thank you.
And we will see you later. Thank you, and yeah, tune in on Saturday and Sunday for Matt's charity stream. See you later, everybody.
Woo. Cheers.
Bye.